news. Building in the Middle East.
Well, g'day, Sam. Great to be catching up with you again, mate. And it's time for our monthly tech news with the Middle East focus news wrap up. How's everything?
Yeah, very good, Damo. Good to see you again, mate. And hope you had a lovely e-break. So even though May was, I think it was like 10-day Eid break roughly in the Middle East. So we've got sort of 2/3 of the month was active, but still lots of news to cover in regards to everything e-com and tech.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of stuff to go through. I feel like the news is just accelerating at the moment. Maybe in July, August, which are typically the summer months in the Northern Hemisphere, of course, and in the Middle East, it might be a little bit quieter then. So, but yeah, there's plenty of stuff to catch up for May.
Might be quieter, but I still think there's going to be too much news for us to cover in an hour podcast, even in July or August. Let's watch this space. But like you said, everything is really accelerating in regards to AI, tech, e-com within the Middle East. And some of those topics we're covering today, it's really just highlighting once again that the Middle East is really becoming a bit of a central hub globally for especially for AI.
Yeah, definitely. It is, in fact, the flavor, isn't it? So I've seen, just on the tempo, I've seen that some weekly podcasts have had to go and up their ante to be twice a week. Some of my favorite podcasts are just finding that their current or their previous tempo of releases just wasn't sufficient. But we're here to summarize, I guess, the overall news from the last month and pick the high points, I guess. So, and then we can give our spin on it and see how it might impact, founders operating in the region.
So, on that note, should we start with some of the latest news and reviews from the Middle East in regards to Middle East region focus news, which is, I would probably say the topics 1 and 2 are just absolutely massive. Specifically, UAE wanting to be in the next 2 years, the government being AI agentically run, which is very audacious and ambitious as well, but you can never write them off.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the governments in the UAE have always been very forward thinking when it comes to adoption of these kind of initiatives. So 50% of government operations in 2 years, to be agentic AI. I don't think anyone. Well, I'm sure there are some exceptions to this, but I've always found in recent years that most of the things that you have to deal with the government for are very, very efficient. Like it's always mobile first. The apps are typically very good, and you can get processes done exceptionally quickly. But this will be, by the sound of it, taking things to another level, where I'm wondering what that agentic actually looks like when it comes to government services. Does that mean you can ask an AI to go through the processes to renew your driver's license or your visas, or what do you think that might look like, mate?
Look, and interesting that this news article came from Fox News as well, right? So we're getting international coverage in regards to this new commitment by the government. To answer your question, like if we look in, it doesn't talk about that in the article, but if you look deeper, they could be using agentic AI for internal operations and processes, or like you said, could they be using it for, customer facing or residential facing or commercial facing activities? Maybe a bit of both, but you would imagine they'd probably be mostly using it for internal operations and processes. I would imagine, right? Like the run of the mill. But like there's still areas for speeding up services, I suppose, for some particular, like for court cases and stuff like that. It could get those court cases completed more quickly, for the judges to make decisions more quickly. I mean, there could be like residential, commercial, company-facing services that actually could, but would it be agentic AI? Maybe not. It could just be AI use.
Yeah, you're probably right. My mind immediately went to my own like experiences of dealing with government, but you're absolutely right. Like probably 90% of government business is internally facing, and you think about like what intra-government liaison or processes might look like, where let's say you've got, for instance, the police, they need to. I'm sure they've got lines of communication with, say, the ports, to use that example you had there. So you could have agentic AI that's dealing with, say, an incident that's happened through Dubai police, and then that goes through the processes there, documentation wise, and then passes it to an agent on the court side that then goes through whatever it needs to go through until in the end it ends up assumingly more efficiently, because it's had to go through less delays because people have got a backlog, so you can, like you said, clear more cases more quickly. So that might be perhaps one example where that agentic AI might come in.
100%, right? Like if the population is scaling and I mean, government is just high volume of data processing at the end of the day, isn't it? So, I mean, it can definitely make government, I would like you said at the beginning, like they are already very, very efficient because they were digital first, from over half a decade now. And that was the agenda, right? Have more e-services, but now coupling e-services with AI could make it even more efficient, or processes more efficient. And like you said, these cases could be done 24/7 instead of just the working hours of humans. So it's not just the efficiency, but actually probably the quality could be improved as well. And yeah, so like definitely. I mean, I'm sure they're going to achieve it. I'm sure they're going to achieve it. Like, I can't wait to see what happens. It just, and I'm looking at this as a bigger picture. What is the overall goal of this? Is it to make them more efficient? Is it to make the whole services more efficient? Is it to reduce their costs? The staffing? Is it to make it so they can scale in regards to the population growth and keep up with demands? I suppose maybe all of the above.
Yeah, it probably is a combination of that. But I remember what Sheikh Mohammed Al Maktoum has mentioned many times. It comes down to happiness of the people. So if you look at it from that metric, then if things are more efficient, more cost effective, you have less bureaucracy to deal with, and so on. Then the ultimate metric, both internally focused and externally focused, if you're not busy with busy work, then overall satisfaction and happiness increases. So if you look at a government as someone that serves the people, manages infrastructure, manages tax collection and all this, and all of that is being done in world-class way, and that is particularly efficient, then in the end the ultimate outcome is that people are happier because of it, whether you're a foreigner like us living here, or you're a citizen.
I think already previously, like as an e-services across all government ministries, it must have been the leading nation or one of the leading nations. But when you couple that with when they implement AI into 50% of the government operations, like it must be it would be the most efficient government across the world. I'm just trying to think if there's any other governments that may actually contend with the UAE. Possibly Singapore. From what I've been reading,
that was the one that immediately
came
to mind. Yeah. I think Singapore always gets very high applause for this, particularly from their starting point as well. 50, 60 years ago, or longer now, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I know there's transparency indexes, and there's ease of doing business indexes, which the UAE always does very well in. And this would only enhance that further, I'd assume. I wonder how much this ties in with the other element that came up in news around the sovereign AI. And I feel like this is going to be a more and more of a talking point as people or countries and people as well want to have control over their inference and where their data goes. So the piece of news here that we're looking at is the UAE Cyber Security Council and EAND, who's of course the leading telecommunications company in the UAE, the largest one at least, previously Etisalat, and Open Innovation AI launched the UAE Sovereign AI platform. So looking at nation scale infrastructure there for compute. We've talked about this on previous podcasts as well, that this kind of idea of sovereign AI is another area where the UAE is certainly in the top, I would say, 3 in the world when it comes to developing their own models, just behind the US and China, I'd say. We're developing your own models, and then this is a component of one of the steps in building out that sovereign AI. So they're not dependent upon third parties and data going wherever their data centers happen to be.
I think building the data center and infrastructure is of course one of the most important aspects in order for that the end goal, like you said. I think you're 100% correct, is the residents happiness index. But for that to be achieved, then we're putting 50% of the government ministries on agentic AI. For 50% of the government ministries to be on agentic AI, they need like you said, the compute and the framework to be put in place. So the computer is definitely one aspect, and making sure those data centers are secure physically, and also from cyber attacks as well. But then also, as it says here, the framework as well. Part of that framework is the cybersecurity aspect of it. And it says here, it's in the name, the sovereignty as well. So everything, because there's going to be so much AI, right? Like, to cover 50% of all government, it's not just the compute of how much processing is going to require, but also the number of models and the security of all the data going through those models. So to do that, like, we're already, it's already half the year gone, but 2026, we've seen more cybersecurity attacks, direct and indirect, than we have in the last 15 years. So, and we can see that this is only going to accelerate. So AI is bringing so much positive benefits to our entire global community, but also, it's also opening the door for more intelligent, malicious attacks as well. So if there's, that's like, cybersecurity as a sector is just going to go through the roof. It's going to go through the roof because, like, cybersecurity is going to be extremely challenging. Just because of the attacks are going to get so sophisticated. Cybersecurity has to get more sophisticated, and it's going to, that is going to be, there's going to be I think that could be a massive, massive sector for the future as well. Like, it's going to it already is a big sector, but I think it's going to absolutely explode in regards to the investment made in cybersecurity. And I think this is brilliant what the government's done here, which is making it like a national council, and it's probably going to become a ministry. To be fair, it should become a ministry just for cybersecurity, because, like, if you're going to be the global leader for e-services from the government level, like, you need to have massive cybersecurity on top of that as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that all pushes you to have agency over it. Excuse the pun, like agency on your agentic AI, but having agency and ownership of that infrastructure so that you can feel, confident that you're securing that appropriately. Because if you're thinking, if these agentic AIs are doing as it describes, they're handling data, your citizens' data, your residents' data. and also, whatever information there might be around the government information like revenues and infrastructure, so on. You've got to be so confident that that information is secure, and hence why it's the sovereignty of the data, and it's the sovereignty of the AIs as well, and having that kind of that confidence there. You're absolutely right. Like we've seen it like indirectly, the cybersecurity impacts in the last months.
Like, I mean, we're seeing governments use AI, like the Pentagon, right, for warfare, with in 2026, and it's been extremely successful. But also, it's not anything new, but governments attacking other governments with cybersecurity attacks, right? So it's not like just from individual hackers in their basement or a small group of hackers. It's government led, and that's always been the case. But government-led cyber attacks, they've got endless capabilities, very honestly, to invest in that too. So yeah, it makes me nervous, very honestly. And thank God the UAE is putting in this Security Council. I think they've got their work cut out for them. And I would not like to be in that council, very honestly. There's so much responsibility.
So many challenges there, yeah. And I mean, and related to this, news, just across the way in Saudi Arabia, with HUMAIN, who we all know is like the leading light for AI innovations there in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So, as the headline reads, that the HUMAIN goes full stack with HUMAIN 1, which is described as an enterprise operating system for AI agents running on AWS. And it's a combination there between Goldman, AWS, and Accenture. And Accenture being named as their strategic AI partner as well. So that was reported across a lot of different news agencies there. So again, governments or the one step away from governments leading the way when it comes to ensuring their AI infrastructure, investment, and ultimately the sovereignty of their AI initiatives as well.
And then for like coupling that, you've got that next article, which is Saudi based as well, Aramco, government, semi-government, teaming up with IBM, to fortify everything that they're doing with more AI as well. So yeah, it's really coupling from that previous point that you talked about with HUMAIN, and it's great to see Saudi accelerating their development and implementation of AI, and let's hope that continues. I even read that they're sort of those giga projects, those giga real estate development projects, like kind of losing their shine now. And it seems like from what we can see from 2026, Saudi's starting to pivot more towards investment in AI and AI infrastructure and everything that comes with it, and maybe moving some of their budgets from those giga projects into this now.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised at all. I mean, you've got to go where where the world's heading, right? And who knows what's going to happen with infrastructure and the needs of that around tourism and your society. But AI is here to stay, and it's going to be evolving just so quickly that you can't risk being left behind. And I mean, it's no secret that all of the economies in the Middle East are looking at what comes after oil, and so they're looking at where do the jobs live, what kind of is the next. What is the next, oil? Is it data? Is it inference? Is it, what does that look like? And certainly like these initiatives are showcasing the fact that they're thinking about these kind of elements here. I think you're absolutely right. I think you're going to see more and more investment into AI-led cybersecurity considered investments all the way.
I think probably maybe Aramco is seeing the benefits of ADNOC just down the road from us, with Presight and all the AI implementation that they're putting through their company, and really accelerating ADNOC's productivity. if Aramco can do the same with IBM, Aramco is already a plus $1 trillion valuation company.
Yeah.
Like they can extract and produce so much more revenue for the country. I really I had to read that article. It was a little bit wishy-washy. It seems like it's a very, very early stage between IBM and Aramco from this nearly like R&D to see what they can do. But it's a starting point. You got to start somewhere. I think from the UAE perspective, I'm happy to see Saudi taking this pivot as well, right? Because like there's always a very positive, competitive nature between Saudi and UAE. So it's nice that actually Saudi wants to run this race as well, because like it's going to just push us even more, from
100%.
being the number one, in the region. So it's healthy competition for sure, and may let it continue. I want to see more articles like this coming from Saudi.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, who thought that? Oh, well, I guess if you look at the history a little bit, where we live happens to be, the home of two of these dynamic kind of countries and governments looking towards the future for their people as well, which is, a good place to be.
Honestly, mate, when we do this every single month, I love the positivity and us being very, very, very small fish in this Middle East pond and sector, because like, I mean, it's so exciting, right? Like this is the future. And because they're investing so much money from the government level, it's going to be fantastic for the entire economy. And now not just for UAE, but Saudi's also jumping into that pond as well. So I'm so excited. And, it's not just the oil revenue, which is great for all businesses and all sectors, because they use that for good investment opportunities into other sectors of the country, specifically AI and e-com these days. But it's good for all of us, right? Like there's a lot of money and more money to come out of the countries with this new investment in government-led AI.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And moving on to, I guess, the next article, talking about how, being thought leaders and even the research leading the way here. And I don't know if I am surprised by this, but we can see that TII happens to be one of our clients, actually.
Stop it. I didn't know that.
I got to keep these cards close to my chest, mate. They've got a cryptographic AI, and it's actually acquired by Opaque, who to be honest, I'd not heard of. But TII is one of, they're one of the leading research entities here in the region. And whilst we've been talking about a focus on sovereign AI, it's fascinating to also see that these external entities are looking at the research and development that's coming out of the region and are actually acquiring it. Usually you think about that and it's going the other way around, right? It's like the acquisitions are coming this way. But in this case, TII has sold, in some respects, this cryptographic technology to a overseas client, which is just fascinating.
No, I mean, look, it's not the first, right? But like, it's another gigantic acquisition. But like, no, it's not the first though. Amazon and coming in, and you've got Uber coming in and acquiring Karim, wasn't it? But how cool is this? Like Silicon Valley company acquiring TII. I had to read a little bit more into this, but it completely makes sense. Like what they're doing, this cryptographic AI technology, and it's quantum computing coming. If you got a quantum computer and put in an AI agent into that, you could only imagine. And obviously, if that went into the wrong hands as a sort of hacking, well, it's probably going to be government-led sort of cyber security or cyber hacking entity, right? So because quantum computing is so expensive, it's probably only going to be government-owned. Could you imagine I mean, it could just do so much damage to whoever it attacks. a quantum computer as a cyber attack with AI within it, it would be unstoppable. It would be so powerful and so intelligent. Like and so now again, cybersecurity, they're doing this cryptographic AI technology to safeguard themselves from quantum computing cyber attacks. Oh my God, it's like futuristic stuff.
Yeah. I love this quote. Let me find it again. It's from His Excellency Faisal bin Ali, who's the advisor to the UAE President and Security General. This acquisition reflects what the UAE set out to do, produce foundational technology that the world adopts. So I love it looking that way around, that the UAE is building the infrastructure that other people are looking to adopt and, in this case, acquire as well. So those investments
this will be the
paying
first off. This would, I mean, maybe it's not the first, but this is, I think there's going to be just the beginning, right? Like again, if you've got and UAE government investing into AI, they're going to I just heard on advertising on the radio during my drive to the office, and they said they got 26 AI models, and because they're acquiring startups and they're doing amazing stuff, right? So there's going to be more, either Presight and UAE acquiring AI startups and tech companies, but also vice versa, right? Like there's going to be so much innovation coming from this when you've got so much money going into it. I just we're really starting to see a nice trend here month on month with what's going on, and you can't compete. Silicon Valley has a hell of a lot of money and investment, but like UAE is government investment, so it's going to match. I mean, who knows who actually is investing more? I'm sure it's a very easy Claude search actually, but
yeah, that's a fascinating idea. Like, yeah, that's I if I was to guess, I'd say in the Middle East it's the government leading, and in the US it'd be definitely the private sector for sure, given the nature of that. But that brings perfectly onto the next piece of news, talking about investment money. The news here that 16 Andreessen Horowitz, who everyone will know, are one of the pivotal venture capitalist firms out of Silicon Valley, have made its first GCC bet. So they've officially entered the market. We've seen them we've seen the key players there visiting, and some of their what they call the principals being in the region a lot. But now the money's starting to follow as well. So that private sector investment, we know that there is, and we'll talk more about investment in Silicon Valley in a later news moment, but very exciting that, 16 with a couple of the big players, Ben Horowitz and Mark Andreessen. I listen to any podcast that these guys put out. They're just brilliant. Just incredible thought leaders. And now they're seeing, the need or the opportunity to be investing in the market as well. So that's an exciting bit of news as well, to bring more private capital into the region too.
I don't have too much to contribute. This was all new news to me when you shared this article. So I'll leave it at that. But I mean, again, it's not something new. There's always been a huge amount of investment from abroad coming into the Middle East for the tech sector and startups as well. It's always but it's nearly 50-50. Sometimes it's UAE that's raising the most funds. Saudi, for many years, has always been raising the most, investment in fintech and tech. But another article talking about funding. It seems like, I mean, look, it's a little bit old now, but it was looking at 2025 funding, and it said here Dubai was the dominant leader in 2025. And to give some numbers, $541 million was raised across 100 deals. Fintech, 49%. That's always the case, isn't it? Enterprise SaaS, 21, healthcare 8, AI 8. I can't wait to see those stats in 2026. I'm sure AI is going to be far more than that.
Absolutely. I think it would give fintech a run for its money in this year for sure.
And enterprise SaaS, they're all saying SaaS is dead.
Yeah, I've got mixed opinions on that notion. I listened to I've forgotten his name now, the Mark Benioff, the Salesforce founder. I love founder-led companies. You can probably tell by the nature of our podcast. But SaaS is dead. Like, they are one of the original SaaS, right? Salesforce, and so they are 2 feet in thoroughly in the adoption of AI as well. So if SaaS is dead, it's certainly not going down without a fight.
And look, I do agree with you, right? Like, if you're looking at like those enterprise systems, there's a lot of convenience in those, like Odoo, right? Like, because we know Odoo very well. Like, it's convenient because it has all the apps for the majority of your business operations for all sectors, and it's easy to deploy and easy to start using very, very quickly. It can be within days if you wanted to. So, like, SaaS is amazing, and like you said, as long as they're adopting AI, and I'm sure they all are, ride the AI bandwagon, then they're still going to be around.
Yeah, I feel like if I give a couple of personal anecdotes here, and they are just anecdotes, but like I can't imagine anytime soon that I'll be replacing our accounting software, and which is linked to our accountant, or our CRM, which is does all these different things for us anytime soon. But anecdotally, I had a very narrow need, and that was I wanted to share videos. Like, I like sending little videos, right? And I want to track if people are watching the videos as well. So, like, it might be answering a question or, demonstrating a capability. So over a couple of weekends, I built a little app. It's called like Watch. Capitec or something, and it's got a browser plugin. It records my screen, records my camera, and then uploads it. It's synchronized to Cloudflare and all this, and then I can share a link, and it's all got fully tracking. So the system I was using before didn't give me the exact data that I wanted for some reason, or it wanted me to pay more or something like that. I was only paying like $8 a month at the current tier, but I wasn't doing exactly what I wanted it to. So I built my own app over a couple of weekends. Now, is that a good use of my time? Probably from an ROI perspective for that one app, how much it might save me over a year, probably not. But if you look at it from an understanding perspective of utilization of these AI tools and understanding what is possible with AI, then that very narrow use case that I wanted something bespoke for me, that was a solution where, in this particular case, that SaaS solution got replaced by me vibe coding something over a weekend.
I agree with you. I mean, like we had a client in yesterday, and he's 50 plus, right? And he likes to tinker a bit as well. And he's had the same use case. Like, I love listening to how a lot of founders actually are utilizing AI to build some little, not SaaSes, but some little like systems, to help with typically internal operational processes. And I absolutely love it. We're coming across entrepreneurs who are really coming up with some fantastic use cases as well, how to use AI, maybe even for commercial purposes, products or services. And I absolutely love it. But yeah, to replace, a very mature, ERP or CRM or finance system, I just don't see that happening, right? Especially the big guys that have been around and have, tens of thousands of development hours that have been invested in it. But they got to watch their back. We are starting to see some of them lose market valuation. I forget which one I was reading in Australia. They're losing millions and millions every quarter because they're just not as popular. So we'll have to wait and see. Like it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, and probably the best ones will continue to survive, and the ones that were probably not so popular maybe will continue to become less popular as time goes on. But building little internal systems, using Claude and stuff, like it's fun actually, isn't it? And if it can help you with your productivity or your company, then fantastic as well. And we're not, the guy that came into our office yesterday, he's not a coder, he's not a tech company, he does trading as a business, right? Commodities trading. But even he's dabbling in this and had a bit of fun and was able to turn out some pretty cool stuff when previously he was doing everything manually on spreadsheets. And I was like, that's cool, yeah. That's cool. That's what it's here for. Having these tools at our fingertips.
Yeah, I've been extending some of the capabilities off some of our platforms to fill gaps that I would never think about doing before, but now well actually if we could see it this way and rate this chart or rate this process, they're kind of it's extending the capabilities of some of the products that we use rather than actually replacing it, and that's becoming more and more possible now when we use Basecamp for managing this podcast as an example, and only in the last, so they're a classic SaaS. They're they're one of the older SaaS as well, been around for 23 years or something, the company, and they only in the last month, I think it is, they'd always had an API. They've had an API for a very, very long time, but they recently released MCP and CLI tools, which are a bit more. You could always connect the API to the AI, but CLIs and MCPs are much more kind of AI first thinking. So, for instance, when doing the research for this show, I was talking to Claude, and it was integrating to this SaaS using, I don't even know, CLI or MCP, and then posted everything there for our organization because it's integrated. So you can connect all these different systems as well, which is a lovely way of kind of, becoming more efficient, but also augmenting any manual processes that you might have there. So yeah, there's lots of exciting opportunities there.
It sounds like it's going to be another podcast as well, to be fair.
Yes, I think so, mate. We need to talk about some of the things we packed together over the last 6 months. But back onto the tech news, mate.
I think it could be a good podcast, very honestly, just because it's it's. Yeah, look, it can still fit within the remit of this podcast agenda as well, very honestly, that we can definitely rope that in. So, and I'm sure because founders are listening to this and they're wanting to dabble and maybe make it more comfortable for them to give it a try themselves for their own businesses.
Yeah, I'd love the idea of running a podcast just focusing on, some of the things that maybe we're building as well or what our founders are doing. But one of the big topics that's all over the news, and I guess we'll cover this in a broader view, is that all of the upcoming expected IPOs, and so we had SpaceX, which now talk about tech. I mean, they're launching rockets, but it also consumes XAI, which has X as well. And now, only in the last week, Anthropic has disclosed that they are going to reach an IPO, and they're going to file for IPO soon. And then, it will go about saying that sometime soon as well, not to be left out, will be OpenAI. And so, all three of these are expected to be somewhere in the vicinity of $1 trillion. So, and I don't know if I'm not sure if this is factually correct, but the largest IPO in history, I believe, was Aramco's IPO a few years ago. And we could have three within the period of 6 months that could all be bigger than that. To say unprecedented is, an understatement. So, we can't talk about tech and tech news and not mention or introduce that.
Now, I'm just doing a quick search, actually. The first $1 trillion valuation company was Apple, 2nd of August, 2018. I actually thought it was more recent than that. So that's 8 years ago. Amazon was also 1 month later. Microsoft in 2019, Alphabet in 2020. But like you said, I think also when IPO for $1 trillion, was the Aramco $1 trillion when
No,
it
it
went
wasn't a trillion.
public?
I'm looking that up furiously now, but no, it was under $1 trillion.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find that now, but no,
Mate, I'm laughing because like trillion is like, it's so much money. And like, and like you said, you know, we've got possibly 3 companies that are going to be listed as a public listed company starting at $1 trillion. You know, like it's only 8 years ago when the first company was valued at $1 trillion, but now they're going, and why is that? Like, again, it's just because like now like private equity and private equity firms, it's such a big industry these days. So like now companies don't need to go to market in order to raise capital, and really, I guess going to market now is really just to pay back the private equity firms, basically their initial investments, really. But it's just crazy. $1 trillion is just it's crazy money, isn't it? And
yeah.
And they're getting listed for $1 trillion.
Well, I have to say, according to Gemini, coming up quickly there, the Aramco valuation was actually 1.7 trillion. So,
Okay, it was.
there was talk that at least the SpaceX one might be the most valuable, but last thing I heard, it's probably going to be close to the trillion mark. So, yeah, we might be overstating things, saying that there might be 3 bigger than the biggest ever, with the biggest ever being Aramco in 2019 at 1.7. And I mean, if you do a little bit of adjustment for inflation, then it's probably closer to 2 trillion, I guess. So, yeah, either way,
but still, Aramco is really, but Aramco is like government, you know, so like it's a little bit unfair when you've got pure Elon Musk private commercial entity. You know, you got to give it to him. He's so incredible that, you know, like, and Aramco is so government backed. Like it's hard to, you know, compete with Aramco. So if you're looking for pure private entities who are going public, you would say then this one, Elon's SpaceX, it would be the highest valued company, because it's government. It's so unfair to say poor Elon is not the highest public listed company ever. But yeah, Anthropic, it looks like Anthropic's now valued at $1 trillion, and also making Elon Musk the first trillionaire too. Wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, that between, you know, SpaceX and Tesla, of course. So, yeah, I even have here on my desk, keep things real, my Starship model there. You know, just I have that there just to keep in perspective, you know what is actually difficult when I'm chasing invoices or whatever kind of drudgery I might be suffering as a company founder. But shall we?
Absolutely incredible. No, well, before we move on, just because like there's a couple other articles here which is quite related as well. Like it's all trillions and trillions and trillions. Like it's just crazy money. But then, you know, following on from that, like one, I never realized like Nvidia is obviously it's a $1 trillion value company, but I just read now it's like worth like 4.6 trillion valuation. Like it's just like eye-watering how valuable these companies. Like 4.6 trillion. It's not, $1 trillion is a lot. 4.6 trillion is just absolutely insane. I can't even, you know, like, I mean, this must be, now you're competing with countries like GDP, you know, like there'll be so many countries that GDP is far less than this as well. So, and then other companies which are now a $1 trillion club, which I've never even heard of before, such as like SK Hynix. I had to Google, who's the hell, how do I not know SK Hynix? But I bet then, like looking into that further, they're not all US, right? So we've got that's South Korean. Two companies, obviously Samsung and SK Hynix is a chip manufacturer. One in Thailand, it's probably a chip manufacturer. Saudi Aramco, of course, and then the rest is US. And all the chip makers are becoming trillion-dollar companies. And following that, probably the next article maybe you're jumping onto was which I think is fantastic. I want to discuss this one, which is like now like those other big 5 tech companies getting into the chip production, which I think is a good thing, to kind of compete with Nvidia, but probably more so help Nvidia, right? Just because like no one company, even if you're 4.6 trillion valuation, can probably keep up with the production requirements of chips for the world.
100%. Like, yeah, obviously Nvidia is doing exceptionally well in these last years after decades in the game. And they just released a new PC chip as well. But there are going to be more and more players coming into this to fill the market, because the demand for tokens is it's going to be exponential for the foreseeable future. And Nvidia is going to make hand over fist of money, but there's going to be different organizations with different ways of approaching this that will also service the market incredibly well as well. So yeah, like if you got knowledge of chip making, fabs, these kind of architecture, then yeah, and with a focus on AI, then yeah, wow, there's a lot to be done there.
But it makes sense as well, right? Like all those, so I read Alphabet, Microsoft, Amazon, they're all getting, I don't know about Apple, maybe possibly Apple as well is getting into chip manufacturing, but it makes complete sense, right? Like they've got the capacity, if they're all worth multiple trillions of valuation, they've got the capacity to get into these other sectors, and why not?
Yeah, Apple's the interesting one. Like, not to do too much speculation, but a lot of people criticize them that they've missed the AI game a bit, because we all saw how, pretty horrible is probably the best way to describe it. The adoption of Siri utilizing AI, the false promises that were there, they had to back step on all of that. But what Apple has seemingly done, by accident or otherwise, they built a commercial chip infrastructure and memory that is phenomenal. So that's why the Mac Minis are going crazy. So they haven't spent, billions investing in foundational models or anything like that. But what they do have is, commercial laptops and so on, which are wonderful at utilization of AI. Now, I'm sure there's no accident there at all, but like that's proven to be perhaps a strength of theirs. Their developer conference is actually next week. I always plug into the keynote for these things. It's a bit sad, but that's what I do. So there might be some news there, at least from their the application of AI for the consumer side, at least. But they've got excellent chips at the very least.
And I just heard this morning there's an absolute backlog of orders for the Mac Minis as well.
Yeah, blame OpenClaw and your agentic AIs, autonomous AIs for that.
But it makes sense, right? Like it's a fantastic product, and they've always built fantastic products. So, like you said, they're going to make money from those minis until, I suppose, AI evolves further, where it's a more secure environment outside of a Mac Mini, I suppose, to have it fully independent and I suppose everyone feeling more secure without having to purchase a Mac Mini. What about you? Have you bought a Mac Mini yet?
No, I've my OpenClaw, CapiClaw, of course, is a cloud hosted one, but I'm not using it as much as I have. But when I say that, I'm sitting to you talking on a MacBook Pro with my iPhone there and my iPad here. So I'm well and truly entrenched in the Apple ecosystem, for better or for worse, for my sins. But no, I haven't got a Mac Mini yet. Although there was some temptation at one point, but I haven't pulled the trigger on that one.
I mean, like Apple, have been seen as pretty sleepy, and even Mark Zuckerberg has been questioning and poo-pooing them for being, I suppose, a little bit complacent and slowing down with their innovation. But you can't write them off. They're going to be
No.
here, and they're going to be here for the future, and I'm sure like they'll have another renaissance eventually.
Well, I mean, they're making, record quarters revenues all
Yeah.
the time. So
Still.
they've got a lot of smart people there. They've got, amazing products still. And Apple has always been a fast follower. There were smartphones before, there were MP3 players before. But, Apple just, when they come, they do typically things very, very well. So I'm hopeful that Siri might be the same, and it might fulfill the promise of, your personal AI on your mobile device that is actually useful.
I think like just following on a little bit from that last sort of 5-10 minutes discussion, like and sort of a little bit coming back to Nvidia and probably looking at all these sort of Fab 5 big tech global companies, and mostly all from Silicon Valley. I heard this morning Nvidia also getting into, and you documented it here too, getting into robotics. And then it makes me question, like, there, I suppose, and like it makes sense, right? And Nvidia getting into far more, and getting into AI. Nvidia really spreading their wings and just moving away from just as known as a chip manufacturer, and really getting into all future sort of like industries to future-proof themselves. And then also, as we just discussed just now, like the Fab 5 going into chip manufacturing as well. And robotics is definitely a future, not like, and it's going to, if Elon Musk probably again leading that from robotics perspective, if that becomes a major industry, then I guess they're all sort of like dabbling into a little bit of everyone's territory.
Yeah, definitely. And I can see they play the long game, Nvidia, and this Cosmos 3, inside of the physical AI, the robots, inside of all of these robots, and there could be millions, if not billions, of these robots. Is going to be a tiny little Nvidia chip. So it's no accident there that AI is incredibly hot right now. Robotics is going to be enabled by AI, but they still need a brain. These robots are still going to need a brain, and Nvidia wants to be that brain. So hence why they're releasing these open models for the physical architecture, which is going to be the next one of the next big waves of technology advancements.
And that really has developed over the last month, right? Hence why I think it's a great quick topic to discuss, because like I kind of feel like awkward, because Jensen like has been supplying all the Fab 5s with chips, but now he feels like, I was feeling like, is he stepping on their toes now, like getting into AI and now getting into robotics? But like, it kind of makes sense, right? Like he just wants, if robotics are getting into selling 1 billion humanoid robots, like, yeah, of course he wants a piece of that pie, but I suppose you have the whole infrastructure there, the brains, like you said, the chips, and the robotics as well.
Well, I mean, it's a kind of a replay of what they did, I'm not sure how many years ago, when they started building out CUDA, which is the libraries that are open, but only run on NVIDIA chips, that enabled much of this AI advancements in the last years. So the CUDA was a massive, massive investment, questioned for a very, very long time, to provide this software architecture to live on these GPUs. So this is just Jensen again, kind of peeking into the future, making these investments up front to what could well be the next massive, massive industry. So exciting times, mate.
It is. I just watched a little interview of Jensen this week as well, and I mean, I just saw they're now worth over 5 trillion. I think. I mean, I can completely see in the video just completely going way beyond that valuation as well, right? Like Jensen is like such a workaholic. He said he wants to work with Nvidia until he dies. You know, like he's got this longest term vision for himself, the company, and works his employees to the ground as well. You know, like he seems like extremely hard employer to work for, and but you know he's only he's only wanting the absolute best out of everyone and pushing them to the absolute max. So and then with that vision now on top of that, like Nvidia, I think there's way more growth for their valuation.
Yeah. I think it's going to be exciting times to see for Nvidia, these IPOs, and what the major labs are doing, what Google will do next. You know, who knows, mate? But well, I mean, for the month of May, which was like you said, you know, we had 10 days during this period. In the last month, there was still plenty of news to cover in this last month. So, mate, brilliant catching up with you as always, discussing these topics, getting your insights and so on. But brilliant times, mate, and looking forward again to the next one as always.
Absolutely. I can't wait to see what June brings for us all to discuss next. So, yeah, fantastic chat, mate, and exciting times, very honestly. So, until next time.
Until next time. Cheers, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Bye, mate. Bye.
Subscribe for more stories from the Gulf.